You're listening to continuing coverage in the Las Vegas Reporter murder trial of Robert Tellez from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today. Now, back to the courtroom.
That it was Rob Tellez's car, maroon, Tahoe, Denali, whatever, older version, silver rims.
Had you ever seen Mr. Tellez drive this maroon?
Absolutely.
Vehicle? When? Where?
Well, Robert Tellez and I live close to each other. So,
in what part of town?
I live in Summerlin Center, and he lives in Coley Ranch.
Okay. So, I didn't mean to cut you off. Tell us what you were going to say.
Well, in fact, is there was one instance where Robert Tellez and I both went and go to the same water store on Sahara and Fort Apache.
Okay.
And we were in the store together. We walked out kind of together. He loaded his water into the back of a maroon Denali Tahoe, whatever it is, maroon with silver rims.
Okay.
Which is when the pictures came up from the Reno Gazette. I called Christy and I was like, and there's like just came down my spine. I was like, holy crap! I didn't want to believe it, but the facts are the facts that was Rob Tellez's car.
Okay, so you share that with Christy. What's her kind of reaction to what you're saying?
She's like, you need to call.
Objection, hearsay.
It's may I be heard? I mean, I can approach her. We can approach. So you share your thoughts with Kristen, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you have a conversation with her, right? Mm-hmm. And after speaking with Kristen, what do you decide to do?
I called Crime Stoppers. The phone did not, it wouldn't go through. There was a secondary phone call that was suggested, phone number. I believe it was on the news, and so it would turn into a counterintelligence, whatever, terrorist thing, and they were covering those phone calls after the photos were released. And I spoke to someone on the phone for about 15, 20 minutes, and they said, please stay by your phone, the detectives are going to want to talk to you. I didn't hear from the detectives, but the following morning, that's when Robert Tellez's house was raided and he was brought into custody.
Okay. And then a few weeks later, let's say approximately on September 26th of 2022, do you ultimately sit down and do an interview with the police?
Yeah, the detectives come to my office and talk to me.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
Cross-examination?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Schilling, was it just your testimony that you saw this image on the TV on a Friday?
Yes, it was a Friday. It's been a little while, but that's when I saw it first, because I thought it was through the whole weekend that it was like, no, this can't be.
Okay, so it's your testimony then on a Friday you saw this on TV, and that's when you...
The photos of the suspected, yes.
I see. You'd had a business relationship with Mr. Tellez previously, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
And you guys had a break, fair to say?
A break?
Yeah, the business relationship ended.
No.
I see. So you were still in business with Mr. Tellez?
That's correct. We just did, a couple weeks before, just had finished revamping a house for him. Independent of my former partner at the probate department, Bob McMasters.
And is it your testimony then that there had been not an issue concerning the percentages that were being charged to the estate or to the homes, concerning the homes to be sold?
Was there a concern?
Yes.
No. Well, I mean, there at one point, long before this, probably a year and a half before, Robert and I had a disagreement about the commission when he overspent on a house, having it revamped, where I told him the value was much lower, and he believed because of Zello that it was higher, but that's not really relevant to what...
Well, I submit it is. I mean, so he was trying to preserve money to the heirs from the sale of the home, correct?
Well, in that particular case that you're bringing up,
yes.
He actually went opposite of what my advice was and spent entirely way too much money with Bob McMasters revamping that house. And my comps I didn't agree with the comps that they were trying to push the value on. And it turned out that my value was correct. And because of that, and because of what they overspent on revamping that house, he then came to me and said, you need to take a commission break, which I pushed back, but ultimately I did do.
So then there was an issue. He wanted you to lower your commission in order for the heirs to receive more money, correct?
Yes, but after that fact, there was
Sure.
still, we probably did 20 or 30 other houses after that.
So that you guys did have a dispute. He was trying to say, you're getting too much money, I want to preserve that money to the heirs, correct?
In one instance out of about 40 houses, sure.
Okay, now it's 40 houses.
Well, whatever we did, I don't know the exact number of, offhand, I think it was probably about 32 houses that I went through the probate department with, but I could be wrong, so don't nail me to the cross on that, but that's about right.
Nail you to the cross. I mean, you're coming in here, you're basically some expert on some gate that you see on TV, you just know it's Robert Tellis, correct? That's your testimony. You reach out and you call Crime Stoppers, correct?
That's correct.
What date did you call Crime Stoppers?
On the Monday,
What's the date? Do you recall?
no, I don't.
You were interviewed on the 28th of September, correct?
That's correct.
In this case, it's the 26th.
I'm sorry, it's
It's
the
the 26th.
26th, correct?
You have it in front of you.
Yes. And during this interview, you talk about a friend of yours that's on SWAT that raided Mr. Tellis's house, correct?
That is correct.
He told you about the raiding of Mr. Tellis's house, correct?
Yes,
And you were friends, correct?
I grew up with him.
And then you decide that you want to give testimony that hurts Mr. Tellis, correct? You want to talk to the police and say that you...
It's argumentative.
I think it's fair.
You can answer.
You're then interviewed by police, correct? And you give testimony or you give a statement that could be easily read as hurtful to Mr. Tellis, correct?
That's your interpretation.
So saying he's the guy that murdered Jeff Tellis, that's not hurtful? My interpretation?
That's a fact.
I see. So you're calling and saying, I see something, I think this is Robert Tellis. That's not hurtful? Or is that hurtful?
It was my.
It's argumentative, Your Honor.
You can answer. Go ahead.
I have no malice against Robert Tellis.
I see. But you had some issues with him concerning your percentage and us being cut, correct?
One has nothing to do with the other.
And you talked to your friend, good friend of yours from high school that was on SWAT, involved in this investigation, correct?
Yes,
And then you give a statement to police concerning Mr. Tellis, fair enough?
that's fair, but one has nothing to do with the other.
Thank you, I have no further questions.
Just real briefly. Okay, so the whole disagreement about evaluating that house, how long before Mr. Guerin is killed is that disagreement over how to value the house? How far back in the past is that?
A year and a half.
Okay. After you
if
have...
not, yeah.
Just give me a second. Okay, so it's about a year and a half later. After that house issue, whatever house that was, do you continue to do business with the public administrator's office?
Yes,
And just to be clear, do that office have to send the business your way? Is that how that works? Do they reach
no,
out
they
to?
don't have to.
But they select people they want to use to help refurbish the house,
Yes.
correct? Okay. Who is the head of the public administrator's office after the disagreement about the Zillow evaluation? Does Mr.
Still Mr. Tellis.
So it was still him. Do you continue to refurbish houses on behalf of the public administrator's office after the Zillow disagreement?
Yes,
For how much longer leading up to Mr. Guerin's death?
a year and a half.
Okay. And Rob Tellis remained the public administrator during that 1.5 year period?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions.
And you can cross.
Yes, thank you. After this disagreement concerning the percentage on the sale of the home or the homes, Bob and
Just one home.
your partner dropped you as a partner, correct? Bob,
That's,
it goes to his bias mode. Thank you.
no, that's actually not correct. Bob McMasters and I both worked together at Urban Nest, and when I moved to Simply Vegas did not want Bob McMasters as a real estate agent there, and that's why we separated.
Fair to say.
After that fact, I'm going to go ahead and add for you and help you.
Oh, please do.
After that fact, I went ahead and put together my own team.
Okay.
And we started doing revamps then.
Okay, and after you putting together your own team and stuff, this happened after you had an issue with Mr. Tellis concerning the percentage, correct, of the sale?
A year and a half or so later, yes.
And ultimately, you were not involved in the sale of homes in relation to the
Well,
Mr. Tellis's office.
The assignments of homes stopped about the same time as Mr. Gierman passed away.
I see.
That's
your recollection.
That's when the assignment of homes stopped.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
Anything else for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, looks like I have a question. If you just stay here for just a moment,
No problem.
We have a question from a juror. Can the attorneys approach? We have a note from a juror. It's been marked as court's exhibit number 8. Did he talk to his friend before or after he was interviewed by the detective?
When you say my friend, do you mean my police officer friend? Or who do you mean friend?
Only permitted to ask the question as it is written. Does the state have any further?
Sure. So, yeah, I'll do a follow-up. So, sir, do you talk, you mentioned you had a conversation at some point with a fellow SWAT officer that you knew. Is that right?
Is that a yes?
Yes.
The conversations you had with the SWAT officer, was that before you called Crime Stoppers or after you called?
Much after.
Okay. And I know there was the question posed, a friend. Did you have a conversation with Kristen before you called Crime Stoppers or after?
Before.
Okay.
All the way through the whole weekend.
Okay, so your conversation with Kristen is before you call Crime Stoppers.
Mm-hmm.
You call Crime Stoppers, and then at the end of the month, at the end of September 26th, that's when you have an interview with the police.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere in between, is that a yes?
Yes, that is. I'm sorry.
And somewhere in between, I don't know, a week after Mr. Derriman passes away in September 26th, you have some sort of conversation with someone from SWAT. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay, so it's Kristen conversation, Crime Stoppers, somewhere in the span of 2 to 3 weeks, talking to a SWAT guy, and at the end of the month, you were talking with Metro and giving us just an interview about your observations.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Vasquez?
Yes, but and obviously we have to rely upon your recollection of order of things, but what we do have clear, you'll agree with me, is that you spoke with your friend with SWAT before you were interviewed by detectives on September 26th, correct?
Yes.
And you had to think about that for a minute, but you reviewed that
No,
transcript of your interview before
Yeah.
testifying today, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes. So you'll agree with me that this idea that you spoke to your friend with SWAT, you did that before you then were interviewed by detectives. Fair to say?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Anything else?
Well, nothing just on that.
Okay. Thank you very much for your testimony here today. You may step down, and you are excused from your subpoena. Thank you very much for being here. And the state may call their next witness.
Kristen Ripple. Please watch your step. And if you'll step up to the witness stand, remain standing. Raise your right hand, face the clerk, please.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
Thank you.
Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
My name is Kristen Riffle, Kristenriffle.
And Ms. Riffle, what kind of business are you in?
I'm in real estate.
And who do you work with?
I work with Zach Schilling at Simply Vegas.
Okay. And are you and Zach in a personal relationship as well?
We used to be, not right now.
Okay. But there was a time when you were. Okay. In your work over the years in real estate, did you ever meet someone by the name of Robert Tellis?
Yes, I did.
And do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yeah.
Could you point to him and describe maybe an article of clothing that he's wearing?
Yeah, he's wearing a blue suit right there.
Your Honor, may the record reflect identification of the defendant?
So reflective.
How was it that you came to meet Mr. Tellis?
I met him through Zach. We worked at Urban Nest, and we started working with Bob McMaster, who was the trustee, and he came to us to start working on the probate, and that's how we met Bob.
Okay. And so it's in the context of Mr. Tellis was working as the public administrator, and you and Zach were doing work on homes?
Correct.
To later be resold?
Correct.
Do you recall about what year that was?
2020?
2020?
It was when the market was really hot.
Okay. And how many times do you think, or how many instances of working on homes took place? Like maybe how many houses did you work on?
Gosh, we did a lot. I didn't keep track, but there was a lot of homes. I mean, I'm guessing, and I don't like to guess in court because I.
Well, would it be over 20?
Yes,
Do you think it would be over 30?
possibly.
Okay.
Possibly.
So several. at
Several,
least.
quite a few, yeah.
Okay. When you were working on the homes, did you ever meet with Mr. Tellis out at those homes?
Yes.
And in those instances, what was the purpose of Mr. Tellis coming out there?
So yeah, he was very proactive, and we would meet at the home to assess what needs to be done to the home, whether it needs to be, fixed up, redone, all of those sort of things, assess with the contractors. And then we would also meet, once it was done, we would meet, he would walk through, we would assess the value and sign the paperwork.
Okay, so you would have done that 20 to 30 times?
Yeah, many times.
Okay, and those would include a walkthrough where you're literally walking through the house?
Yes.
I want to direct your attention to September of 2022, early September. Around that time period, did you become aware that journalist Jeff Garriman had been murdered?
Yes, I had.
Do you recall if you ever saw images released by the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department associated with that murder?
Yes.
And do you remember what they were, if they were still photos or videos?
Videos.
Videos?
Yeah.
And when you saw the videos, did they remind you of anybody?
Yes. Me and Zach, because we had followed all the stories that Jeff had written.
Sure.
So it was kind of like, oh my gosh, can you imagine if it was Rob that did that? And we kind of said it in jest, not really actually thinking he did it.
Sure.
And then we watched the video and we were like, it raised an eyebrow, but it was nothing that I would say, oh, you need to call the police on because, that's...
Not wanting to believe it.
Yeah, well, it's not even not wanting to believe it. You just don't want to assume somebody did that.
Sure.
And not be 100% sure.
Okay. Did there come a point in time when you and Zach, and I don't want to know what he said, but where you had a conversation about calling the police?
Yes, we did when he called me and he said, when they released a photograph of the car, he said, that's Rob's car. I've seen him in it at the water store. And I was like, okay. So that's when, he said, what should I do? What do we do? And I was like, well, if you if that's his car, you should consider calling somebody.
Okay, and is it your understanding that at that point, he called the police?
Yes.
Okay. And at some point beyond that, do you recall being interviewed or being present during an interview with detectives?
Yes, they came to our office.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Cross-examination?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Riffle. So Jeff Gehrman dies, and you and Mr. Schilling are talking about Mr. Tellis in jest? That was your testimony, correct?
Yes.
And then sometime later, there's a recognition of a car that's driven at times by Mr. Tellis, correct?
Correct.
And is that when this realization that maybe Mr. Tellis is somehow involved occurred for you?
Pardon me?
I said, is that when this realization that maybe Mr. Tellis is somehow involved? Is that when this
Well,
came to you?
it was a consideration when we saw the video,
Okay.
and then
the video of what?
of him walking,
I
and
see.
the height, the shoes.
The shoes now. Okay.
Yes.
But you had testified concerning this realization came to you when you saw the vehicle.
But the vehicle was the moment when we said, okay, that's confirmation enough. The video before was not confirmation enough to make a phone call.
So the video
picture-
of him walking was not confirmation
No,
enough.
because I don't see his face.
I see.
So if I saw his face, then I could confirm that it was him. The car was the confirmation.
What type of car was that?
It was a maroon, very large suburban Denali type.
Okay. Obviously, you've been following this matter in the paper prior to your testimony today.
Correct.
Both you and Mr. Schilling, you've been following this case, haven't you?
We followed the case. I mean, I haven't really been paying that much attention to it recently, but we followed the case when it was happening, yeah.
Okay, well, it's still happening. You're aware of that.
Well, I'm aware it's still happening, but I haven't been paying that much attention to it recently, if I'm being honest.
Well, please.
Yeah.
You received a subpoena to come and testify, correct?
Correct.
And you received that subpoena when?
A week ago? Was it a week ago? It was a week ago.
I don't know, ma'am.
Yeah, I don't, it was a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
And you just haven't really been paying attention
I've
with
been
this?
very busy, if we're being honest.
Oh, that's please, yes.
Which is a good thing.
You know that the trial of Mr. Tellis was coming up, correct?
No, I didn't.
I see. And you didn't know when you got the subpoena that it was coming?
Well, I mean, I knew there was a subpoena coming. I didn't think I was even going to have to show up, to be honest with you. So I didn't think my testimony was going to be that important to it. So I was not taking it super seriously.
In reference to these walkthroughs of these homes, Mr. Tellis was not present for most of those walkthroughs, fair to say?
Mr. Tellis wasn't present for our walkthroughs?
Correct.
No, he was present for our walkthroughs.
I see. That many times? You agree with me, you only came into contact with this gentleman, what, twice, maybe?
No, many times. We've seen each other many times, and he was always lovely with me.
He was always lovely with you.
Yeah.
He didn't have that good of a relationship with Mr. Schilling, did he?
There were times when they butt heads on price,
Correct.
but that's normal in our business.
In fact, Mr. Schilling would refer to Mr. Tellis as an asshole, correct?
No. Who said he's called him an asshole?
Just to be clear, though, while this thing was unfolding with Mr. Tellis, or concerning Mr. Gehrman, you and Mr. Schilling were jesting about Mr. Tellis's involvement, correct?
We were assuming.
She said jesting, correct? You were joking about it.
Well, we were like, can you imagine if reading the stories that were out? Can you imagine if that was him? And then we're watching the video, and yeah. So
these stories that came out, they came out before
the murder.
video. Oh, but they came out before the murder. Okay.
The story, we read all the stories with Roberta. We were very much in it because we worked with them. And yeah.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Ms. Wickerly?
Just briefly, Ms. Ripple, You said it was the sort of the gait and the size of the person that looked familiar to you?
Yeah, it was this. Yeah, it was this.
And by size, do you mean like kind of build?
Height and build, yes.
Okay. And so the sort of the frame of the whole
Right.
body?
Right.
And then the way the person was walking?
Objection
Right.
meeting.
You are reading.
Okay. And was there an article of clothing that you were, that drew your attention to?
Because Zach is so, he has a tendency to notice everything. Like he noticed things on my outfit today. Like he, saw a string and he's like, we got to cut the string. He's very observant with everything. So he always recognized the shoes. No, but he's brought up the shoes to me.
Hold
in
on
the
one
past.
sec, let the judge decide.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. I'll be quiet.
Ask the question again.
Okay, so my question is, not what Zach said, but was there a particular article of clothing that you guys were focused on?
The shoes.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions.
Okay. We have one question. Marked as court's exhibit number 9. Did she realize it was Tellus's vehicle, or Zachary told her that was Tellus's vehicle?
Zach told me it was his vehicle.
Okay. Any follow-up from the state? Mr. Draskovich?
No, I didn't understand. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your testimony here today. You may step down and you are
Thank you.
excused from your subpoena.
Thank you.
The state may call their next witness.
We're going to call Detective Edgar Name.
Please remain standing. Face the clerk and raise your right hand.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated.
Thank you.
Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
My first name is Edgar, spelled Edgar, and my last name is Nahum, spelled Nahum, as in Mary.
Thank you very much. Sir, what do you do for a living?
I'm a detective with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
All right. How long have you worked for Metro?
About 8.5 years right now, sir.
All right. And what is the division that you're currently assigned to?
Currently, I'm assigned to the homicide section.
How long have you been in homicide?
Approximately 1.5 years now.
Okay. And before that, what unit were you a part of?
I was part of the gang investigation section.
Okay. Now, I want to turn your attention to the investigation regarding the killing of Jeff Garriman. Were you part of a squad that was investigating that unit, or that case, that event?
I wasn't part of the squad. I was doing what's called like a TDY, or a temporary assignment, more of a ride-along with the homicide section, so I was allowed to go to homicide investigations and assist with homicide investigations.
Did that have something to do with the timing of when you were joining homicide? Is that why you were doing that ride-along?
Yes, that's correct. I was in the process of testing to be a homicide detective, and so I was allowed the opportunity to ride with them and assist with their investigations, being that I was already a detective in a unit that handled violent crime.
Okay. Did you assist those detectives in performing a search warrant on the home of Robert Tellus?
I did, yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about how, like, a search is divvied up. How do you guys kind of game plan that?
So the way that it usually works, and every section has a little bit of a different way to do it, but this particular squad was a senior tenured squad of detectives. So while the lead detectives were obtaining their search warrants, the rest of us kind of gathered up and Usually, once the search warrant is obtained by the lead detectives, we're told, like, okay, we're ready to go, and then we'll kind of gauge the house or whatever is the premise that we're searching and divvy up the room. So, you know, for me, being the fact that I was a ride-along, I was paired with a senior detective who was currently already in homicide, and I was assigned an area of responsibility to search within the house.
Okay, and before you go and enter the house, do you have some kind of understanding of some of the evidence that's been collected in this case, or information that you have at your disposal, so you maybe know what to look for when you go into, let's say, a residence, as in this case?
Yes, correct. Usually, we'll be briefed as to like what the items are that we are seeking, or the items sought, as they're called, as part of the evidence of the search warrant.
Okay. Had you reviewed any of video surveillance that had been collected from the neighborhood in which Mr. Gehrman was killed?
Yes.
Did that include video of a suspect in a certain outfit?
Yes, it did.
What was that? What do you remember about that outfit? What jumped out to you?
So there was a couple of items of evidentiary value that we were searching for or seeking, which was going to be the focus of our searches. So the thing that stood out to me was like a gardener style hat, like a large straw hat. There was like orange, like a shirt, which would be like something along the lines of what a construction worker would wear. And there were some gray tennis shoes with black accents. Those are the items that had characteristics enough that we would like want to look for them, or we're specifically seeking them.
Okay, so you're going to this house. Did you partner up with anyone?
I did, yes.
Who was that?
That was Detective Lawrence Gilbert.
Okay, and what portion of the house did you work on?
I was initially assigned to the search of the downstairs living room.
Okay. Showing the opposing counsel what's been marked as, well, it looks like stage 217, 18, 19, let's see. I think this is 217 through 235. Not all of them have been admitted, but is there any objection to their admission? That's right. He's just looking through there. No objection? No objection. All right.
So 218 through 235 are being offered at this time,
That's correct.
and there's no objection, they're admitted.
May I approach?
You may.
All right, sir, I want you to take a look at 217 through stage 235. Just take a minute, flip through those, and let me know when if you recognize what you're looking at there. Recognize what you're looking at there?
I do, sir.
Okay, what are these?
Those are still photographs of the of Mr. Tea's residence.
Okay. On the day that you performed the search?
Correct, yes.
All right. I know with crime scenes, if you have like an active crime scene, scenes are kind of like taped off and things of that nature. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. How about if you're just effectuating a search warrant? Is there a lot of sealing off of scenes with crime tape or anything like that?
I mean, it just depends on the circumstances, right? Geographically where the scene is.
Okay.
If it can be contained, as in this case it was, like within a residence, it'd probably be more so just to, like manage the flow of people in and out of the crime scene. So
Okay.
it just depends is the answer.
Okay, so in this instance, did you tape around Mr. Tellis's house with the crime scene?
If my memory serves correctly, Patrol had already done the majority of the crime scene preservation stuff and tape prior to our arrival.
Okay, so do you remember, let me ask you this, who is allowed to come in and out of Mr. Tellis's residence during the performance of the search warrant?
Usually it would be the detectives that are assigned to the case. In this case, homicide. Usually, at least in my experience, it was the units affecting the search warrant.
If any Metro officer was interested in just kind of walking in and seeing what's going on, are they allowed to do that?
We would highly discourage it because of what we're out actually doing, right?
In this instance, did you allow other members that are not part of this search team to come into the house when you were performing this search?
The way that I remember it, it was the homicide section that was there as well as the crime scene analyst. Could there have been other people there? Absolutely, but not to my recollection. Not anybody that I recall.
Okay, do you recall Detective Derek Jappy participating in the search of the house?
I know Detective Derek Jappy's name. I've never met him before, nor have I ever seen him.
Okay, so you're not exactly sure. Okay, do you remember seeing kind of a tall redhead waltzing through?
No.
Okay. Let me ask you this, and this may seem like a silly question, but do you allow regular citizens to just come in to a home that you're searching when you're performing a search warrant?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, why not?
Well, at that point, we have to treat it as if though it's an extension of the crime scene, right? Due to the fact that we're affecting a search warrant, it's evidence that could be located in there. So to preserve any potential evidence that would be inside of the residence, we don't allow members of the public into where we are searching.
So how about real estate agents? Do you let them come in when you're doing search warrants?
Absolutely not.
How about anyone from Compass Realty? Did you let anyone from Compass Realty come in during your search of Mr. Tellis's house?
No, sir. Nobody but law enforcement, to my knowledge, was allowed into the residence.
Okay. Publishing 217. What are we looking at here?
This is the front of Mr. Tez's residence the day of the search warrant.
All right. Publishing 218. Is this just a little bit of a closer view?
It is, yes.
Publishing 219. What are we looking at?
This is the residence's front door.
Publishing 220. What do we see here?
This would be like a view towards what I guess would be the west, facing from the living room towards the kitchen, and where the archway is would be like the rest of the residence where you first enter, as well as I believe the stairs to go upstairs.
One other question before we kind of finish with the photos. Was Mr. Tellis's wife present in the home when you performed your search?
They were allowed to remain in their home for the sake of comfort, not wanting to, leave her and her children outside or anywhere where they wouldn't be as comfortable. We were trying to award them a little bit of respect in that sense.
Okay. So this is kind of standing in the family room sitting area. Would that be correct? Looking towards the kitchen?
That's how I would describe it, yes.
All right. Publishing 221. What vantage point are we looking at here?
So this would be just as if though you flipped and looked to the right. So as you entered the residence, I guess it would be walking north, and then all the way at the right corner, which would be like the northeast living room, as the way that I would describe it. They had an L-shaped couch.
All right. Publishing 222. What perspective are we looking at now?
Same perspective as before, just maybe a little bit further to the north and looking towards the east.
Was this the room that you were assigned to?
Yes, it was.
Who was helping you search this particular room?
Detective Lawrence Gilbert.
I want to ask you about that couch. Does that couch have any sort of special features, or is it just a normal sitting couch?
The far corner next to where the dog kennel is, which would be, if I'm looking at the photo to the right, reclined.
Okay. So when you're performing, if you see what appears to be a reclining couch, do you kind of extend it out to see what potentially might be under it?
Yes.
Did you do that in this case?
I did.
Publishing Exhibit 223. What do we see here?
So once the recliner had been extended, I shone my light in it actually from the rear of the couch, and I saw what appeared to be like a Ziploc bag containing like fabric or plastic, some sort of like just shredded up material, and then to the right of that was a shoe.
Did the shoe catch your attention?
It did, yes.
Why?
It appeared to be the shoe that was shown to us previously in the video and in the still photos that we had of the suspect.
I'm going to zoom in. And if you look, detective, to your right, there is a mouse. Can you use that mouse and identify where you see the shoe?
So the shoe would be right here. And then what initially caught my eye was the Ziploc bag, which was right back here. And then when I moved to the front of the couch, after Detective Lawrence Gilbert alerted me that we may have some evidence, I came to the front and I observed the portion of what appeared to be like a cut up shoe.
Detective, were you able to see those shoes or those items when the couch was in its normal kind of non-reclined position?
No.
Okay, so it was, when you walked in, was it hidden from view?
Yes, unless you were to extend the recliner out, you wouldn't have been able to see those items.
Publishing 221. Is this more of a floor level view of this portion of the couch?
Yes, it is.
Publishing 225. Is that kind of coming a little bit closer in?
Yes, it is.
Let me. Do you see the shoe?
I do, yes.
Why don't you circle it and identify it for us? Okay, let the record reflect the witness has circled a gray Nike to the left of the picture. Let's slide it to the middle here. Where is the bag?
The mouse is kind of already on it, but it's this item right here.
Okay, let the record reflect that the witness is circling what appears to be at least a blue-lined Ziploc bag. Where is this other portion of the shoe that you're discussing?
It would have been right here.
Okay, let the record reflect that they're looking at another gray object with some white or black trim also to the right of the Ziploc bag. Publishing 226. Is this just another close-up view of this shoe?
Yes, it is.
Was this shoe intact? Like, was it cut up, or was this shoe kind of intact?
That shoe was, at least from when I saw it from the back and then from the front, without approaching it too much, it looked to be a whole shoe, as opposed to the other one, which was obviously cut up.
Okay, publishing 227. Is that another close-up or an isolation of the intact shoe?
Yes.
Publishing 228. Is this another side profile of that shoe?
Yes.
Can you pull photos over here? They're over there.
Oh, the Bellington?
Yeah. Published Exhibit 311. So this, before we get to 311, so this is the shoe that struck you as being familiar, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Publishing 311. Is this a still from some of the video that you reviewed before performing the search warrant?
Yes, it is.
Oops. Oh, there's the lag. And that's what caught your attention?
Yes.
Putting 228 and 311, essentially side by side. This caught your attention?
Yes, it did.
Preliminary. Okay. I want to publish 229. What are we looking at here?
This is a close-up photo of the partial shoe that was located next to the Ziploc bag.
Detective, when you look at this, has the insole been removed?
It appears that way, yes.
Okay. Is that usually the part of your shoe that you sweat into?
Correct.
Publishing 230. Is this another profile of that cut-up shoe?
Yes, it is.
Publishing 231, is that another image from a different angle?
Yes.
Publishing 232, is this just another top view or dorsal view of the shoe?
Correct.
I learned something new today.
I actually don't know what dorsal means, so you
means
educated me,
top.
sir.
Means top. Publishing 235. What are we looking at here?
So this is a close-up photo of the Ziploc bag that I located with what appeared to be just like shredded bits of fabric.
Okay. Publishing 233, are these some examples of some of the items inside that bag?
Yes, they are.
Publishing 234. What are we looking at here?
Just some more bits and pieces of plastic and fabric that were located inside of the Ziploc bag.
When you identified the bag, the cut-up shoe, the intact shoe, what do you do at that point? When you see it, what's the next step in terms of securing it and getting it impounded?
So we work hand in hand with our crime scene section. So usually the way that it works is once you find an item of evidentiary value, there's a lot more detectives usually than there are crime scene analysts. So we'll call out to the person who is documenting the evidence of the crime scene, right? Which in this case was crime scene analyst Smisson. So I called out for her and told her that we had located something in the living room under the couch, and then she came and pulled it from where it was, and then proceeded to document it as shown in the photos.
Let me ask you this, and I didn't ask you this before. Are you guys wearing anything protective-wise to preserve the integrity of the scene?
Yes.
What are you wearing?
This is not even just for the preservation of the scene, which obviously it's just another layer of protection to preserve DNA evidence, but we will always wear gloves, also just for sanitary purposes, because a lot of times where we're searching, there are items which not necessarily clean or could be potentially dangerous, but also in instances where we're searching for items where we might want to seek DNA, we'll wear mask coverings over our mouth and nose.
So you're wearing facial coverings, gloves. So you see this, you alert CSA Smisson, and then what does she do at that point as far as you recall?
So she comes to the front of it, to where the area where the shoe was located. She documents it in place by taking photographs of it as it was located. And then I think I helped her by lifting up the couch on the backside, because one of the items are kind of wedged in there a little further deep. And then she pulled them out and proceeded to document. Okay,
so then they're documented, and then I take it, are they bagged up at that point?
Well, she collects all the evidence as is part of their procedure. She usually, after she's done with her photographs, she'll bag it up, and then they take it away to the crime scene lab to conduct whatever analysis or just impound, whichever is applicable.
As far as you remember, did anybody else handle those shoes other than kind of when you observed it between Smisson kind of impounding it? Did you let anyone else kind of manipulate that evidence?
No.
Okay. Court's indulgence. No further questions.
Cross-examination?
Yes, thank you. It's Detective Nahum.
Nahum? I know it's a point of contention in this trial, sir. There's a lot of pronunciations of it. Nahum is the correct way.
Nahum?
Correct.
Just want to make sure I have the spelling right.
I appreciate that.
You and I have never spoken.
Correct.
Haven't contacted you concerning any reports that you may have generated in reference to this case?
You have not, sir, no.
There is an officer's report that was generated in reference to this homicide investigation, correct?
I would assume so. That it was Detective Gaddis's case, I would assume it's Detective Gaddis's officer's report.
Okay. That's common. What happens, these reports are prepared in preparation for perhaps trials such as this one concerning homicide investigations and prosecutions. Fair to say?
Absolutely.
These reports are important.
Absolutely.
They're generally made in time and obviously advised to assure their accuracy.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, this is relied upon by the courts, by the state, prosecutors, defense in these cases. Fair to say?
Absolutely. They're very important reports.
And in this case, did you review, and I'll tell you, it's a 70-page report that is authored. It appears by Detective Gaddis. Did you review this report in preparation for your testimony today or any time during your involvement in this case?
I have not, sir. No.
If I told you that this report basically is a summation of the entire investigation, would you have any reason to disagree with me?
No.
And
Without
this-
knowing any of the contents, of course, but that's a fair representation of the majority of our reports, if not all of our reports. It's just a summary of our actions as detectives to best document our actions and the investigation.
This report, and I'll just tell you, and state has a report. I mean, obviously, I'm not misleading you. This report lays out basically the entry of Mr. Tellis's home, the search of Mr. Tellis's home on September 7th, 2022. Okay, happened in the morning, correct?
Yeah, sometime it was during regular working hours. I remember being there in the morning till the afternoon.
He had taken his stepson to school, correct? 9:12 in the morning.
I wasn't part of the apprehension or any of the sort of predecessing stuff that happened before. I was just told once Mr. Tejas was taken into custody that we'd be assisting this homicide squad with the service of a search warrant.
Okay. And that was later in the day of the 7th, correct?
Like I said, it was sometime in the morning to the afternoon of that day. It was daylight.
Now, in this report, it lays out the persons at the scene of the search of Mr. Tellis's residence. Fair to say?
Sure.
Has a list of people that were present, and I wanted to make sure I got the spelling of your name correct. Your name does not appear in this report.
Mm-hmm.
Your name does not appear as the person that had discovered this tennis shoe that we've seen photographs of, or the pieces, the bags, things like that. Do you have any reason to disagree with me when I tell you it's not there?
Having not seen the report, sir, I have no reason to disagree with you.
If I told you that there's approximately 1,050 pages that have been produced as discovery from the district attorney's office, your name does not appear in those 1,050 pages. And I'm telling you, would you have any reason to disagree, or would you know that I'm telling you the truth?
I have no reason to not believe you, sir. I was just wondering if the question was coming afterwards.
And great, your name's not here, but you're giving us testimony today that you found these cut up pieces of shoe, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that you found this shoe underneath the couch in the living room of the Tellis home, correct?
I did, yes.
What time do you say that you arrived at the Tellis home?
I couldn't give you a specific time, sir. Memory serves. What I recall is it was during working hours.
Okay.
The homicide section works between 7 to 5 p.m., 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So it was within our working hours, and it was sometime in the afternoon, and we were there till in the morning to the afternoon.
Okay, and you don't recall when you left, fair to say?
Yeah, not the exact time, no.
You didn't write any reports or generate any reports concerning what you say that you found in the Tellis home, fair to say?
That's correct. I did not generate any reports.
And you were asked by Mr. Hamner if you had seen any civilians, members of Compass Realty at the home during the course of your investigation, during the search that you say that you were at, correct?
Yes.
But you weren't there prior to the service of this search warrant, correct? The 6th, the 5th?
Previous days?
Yes.
No, I had never responded to the Tejas residence before my part of the service of the search warrant.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay. So, Detective, you were asked on cross-examination about Detective Gaddis's officer's report. Do you remember being asked a series of questions like that?
I do, yes.
Okay. What's your first name?
Edgar?
Okay, so that begins with an E.
That's correct.
And what's your last name?
Nahum?
Okay, how do you spell it?
It's N as in Nancy, A-H-U-M as in Mary.
Okay, M as in Mary. What's your P number?
My P number is 15484.
Okay. On direct examination, I asked you a question. Did you process or search that living room alone, or did you do it with someone?
You did ask, and I believe that I answered. I did it with Detective Lawrence Gilbert.
Okay. Referring to pages 40 and 41, counsel, you were also asked a question about when you did this. You had indicated the morning. Is that correct?
Sometime between the morning and into the afternoon. We were there for several hours.
Would it help refresh your recollection as to the time if you had a chance to review Detective Gaddis's officer's report, specifically the area about executing the warrant at that location?
I've never seen Detective Gaddis's police report.
Would it help refresh your memory as to time you had a chance to take a glance at it?
Absolutely.
Referring to page 40 and 41, counsel. I'd like you to take a look at this paragraph right here, and let me know if that refreshes your memory as to time.
Okay.
I'd like you to take a look, and there's a list of persons present. I want you to look at number 8, for the record, number 8, counsel. Take a look here, read it silently to yourself. Okay? And I want to turn to page 41, first paragraph, counsel. Take a look at this paragraph here, and just review that, and let me know if that refreshes your memory to a certain extent. Okay? If you read this paragraph right here. Okay? All right. So, now that you've had a chance to refresh your memory with Detective Gaddis, there was a question that was posed about, would it surprise you if you were never referenced? Do you see a possible reference to your name?
I do, yes.
Okay. Where is it listed?
As part of the persons present during the search of the execution of the search warrant at Mr. Tejas' home.
Okay. So when they list the officers, do they list out the first initial of their name?
Yes, they do.
Okay. What is the name and what is the first initial listed for you?
E as in Edward or Edgar, which is my actual name.
In the officer's report, how is your last name spelled?
It's misspelled. It's spelled Nahun at the end as opposed to
instead
N.
of M. I have that issue with Hamner. It gets people messed up all the time. But anyways, is your P number denoted correctly?
My P number is denoted correctly.
Okay. And then in the officer's report, who is denoted as the person who locates the shoe in the living room?
The person that I was assisting with the search, Detective Lawrence Gilbert.
If you could, please explain to the jury whether or not Detective Gilbert is currently an active member of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
No. Tragically, he's retired, and I miss him every day.
Okay. So how long has he been retired for?
Just a couple of months.
Okay. So he's retired and you're active, correct?
That's correct.
But you participated in this search?
I did, yes.
Okay. And you were with him, and the two of you worked as a team to locate that shoe?
Yes, we did.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Just briefly, so your name was misspelled in the report on the one page.
My last name seems to keep a recurrent theme in this trial, sir.
Okay, but it was Detective Gilbert that initially found the shoe underneath the couch.
We were both searching the same area. Like I said, I was behind the couch. He was in front of the couch. I shone my light on it from the back. My attention was drawn to the Ziploc bag, and then when I looked to the right, saw the shoe. At that point, Detective Gilbert, I assume, also saw the shoe because he told me, hold on one second.
We can't get into, obviously, you were present.
That's correct, sir.
Your testimony. Were you wearing body cam, or was this in any way memorialized?
We as detectives, sir, do not wear body cams. We are not required to as part of our policies or procedures.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
Just real briefly, as to the question I memorialized through body cam. There's other ways to memorialize a search, correct?
Yes, there is.
There are photographs, correct?
Photographs as well as the scribe, sir.
right? There are reports that are written, correct?
Yes, correct.
Evidence can be physically impounded, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
In this case, was the shoes and the cut-up shoes and the baggy shoes and the half shoes, were those things impounded as evidence?
Yes, they were.
Were they photographed and documented via photography?
Yes, that's correct.
And was it memorialized in the officer's report?
Yes, yes, it was.
Additionally, crime scene analysts prepare reports as well.
Yes, they do.
I know you haven't read it, but isn't there a responsibility to memorialize the things that are ultimately located and impounded?
Yes, that's another part of the process for us is that they generate their reports, and then obviously as supporting people in our investigations, our reports are very, I don't want to say redundant, but a lot of the same information is located on both of them.
Thank you so much. No further questions.
Thank you, sir.
There's no questions. Thank you.
Looks like we have some questions from the jurors. Approach. Okay, I have 2 questions from the jurors. Court's exhibit number 10. Do you recall who was the one that reclined the chair to check underneath? Was it you or Detective Gilbert?
Remember, sir, correctly, it was me.
Court's exhibit number 11. While the team was searching the home, was the cameras on from the home and was the videos reviewed after the search?
Hard to say. I don't know.
And we marked this court's exhibit number 11. Is there any follow-up from the state?
No, Your Honor.
From the defense?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your testimony here today. You may step down and you are excused from your subpoena. Thank you very much for being here. And the state may call their next witness.
Detective Milligan?
Please remain standing, raise your right hand, face the court.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name for the record.
My name is James Milligan. That's James. Milligan is Milligan.
May proceed. Sir, how are you employed?
I'm a homicide detective with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
How long have you been a homicide detective?
A little over 2.5 years.
And how long have you worked for Metro in total?
Just about 18 years.
Okay. Were you working as a homicide detective on September the 7th of 2022?
I was.
And were you part of a team that was responsible for doing a search warrant at a residence on Spanish Steps?
I was.
And that's 9624 Spanish Steps?
That's correct.
Do you recall if other homicide detectives were involved in that search warrant as well?
Yes, there were.
Prior to doing the search warrant, is there any kind of briefing that occurs amongst the team of detectives that's going to do the search?
Yes, there is.
And who does the briefing?
Really, anybody can do the briefing.
Okay.
I can't recall exactly who it was during this particular incident.
Do you get some sort of briefing that helps you know what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay, and that was done in this case?
Yes, it was.
Okay, when you get to the residence, do you have to wait till a search warrant is actually signed by a judge in order to enter the residence?
That's correct.
You weren't the person that drafted the warrant, correct?
I was not.
But at some point, you were told there was judicial approval to enter the residence.
That's correct.
And then after that, I assume the detectives go in the residence?
Yes.
Do you take sort of an overview before people start going through things?
Yes, we do.
Is there any attempt to document how the residence appears before any searching occurs?
Yes, there is.
How does that take place?
The crime scene analyst will go into the residence and take overall photographs prior to any searching taking place.
Okay, so we know how it looks initially, and then then the search proceeds.
Yes.
Amongst the detectives, how do you decide who's going to search where?
We look at the layout inside the house, how big the house is, how cluttered it might be or maybe not, and then how many people do we have to actually help do the searching, and then we divvy up assignments from there.
Okay, and do you know a Detective Nahum?
I do.
He's the gentleman that just left the courtroom?
Yes.
Do you recall him working on the search warrant with Detective Gilbert?
Yes.
Detective Gilbert is now retired?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Did you have a particular duty with respect to this search warrant that other homicide detectives didn't have?
Yes, I was, excuse me, designated as the scribe for the service of the search warrant.
What does it mean to be the scribe?
The scribe takes inventory of any evidence that was collected, who it was collected by, where it was found, and will complete the search warrant return, which is essentially a handwritten inventory of items that were seized.
Okay, and that's just making sure everything's documented in writing as well as the photographs taken by the crime scene analyst?
That's correct.
And then the crime scene analyst actually does a report as well?
Correct.
Besides the homicide detectives and the crime scene analyst, were there any people in the house that were present during the search warrant?
There was a detective with the Digital Investigations Bureau.
Okay.
And other than that, upon initial arrival, there were family members inside the residence.
What happened with the family members? Where did they go while you guys were searching?
Once we clear one room to make sure that there's no evidence that we're looking for or any type of weapons or anything, then typically they'd be allowed to sit in that one space with supervision from law enforcement.
Okay, so there's an officer with them, but they can kind of see and hear what's going on inside the residence as well?
Correct.
While the warrant is being executed or while you're searching?
Correct.
And that there were family members of Mr. Tellis at least present in a room while the search warrant was going on?
Correct.
Now, when you go and do a search warrant, do you wear any type of protective equipment so you don't transfer anything external onto potential evidence?
Yes, normally latex gloves are worn.
Okay. Now, with regard to this search warrant, do you recall what area of the residence you searched?
Primarily the downstairs, to include the living room, kitchen, and garage.
Okay, so you're kind of going in many areas, is that fair?
Correct.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Sir, I'm going to show you a series of photographs. This is State's Proposed 236 to 246.
Okay.
Could you look through those and just let me know when you're done, please?
Sure.
More continuing coverage in the Las Vegas reporter murder trial of Robert Tellez is on the way. From the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today, press subscribe now.